First at 9 this Friday, the 2nd of August 2024. Towards a firm footing, the IMF calls for a continuation of the reform agenda, urges the government to underpin appropriate revenue measures in the next budget. The wish list, Jaffna to be developed within the next 5 to 10 years, says the President. Series of projects to uplift the living standards in the northern province. Impermanence. Gangarame chief incumbent, Venerable Galabudanyani Thera passes away. Final rites of the late Thera to be held under state patronage.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟම ඇති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Singh joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now taking you straight to your top story this evening, the IMF staff team which arrived in Sri Lanka to discuss the country's recent economic developments urges the government to ensure that the 2025 budget is underpinned by appropriate revenue measures and continued spending restraint in order to reach the medium-term primary balance objective of 2.3% of GDP, a key requirement for restoring Sri Lanka's debt sustainability. Issuing a statement following the conclusion of their visit, IMF Senior Mission Chief for Sri Lanka Peter Brewer noted that the planned relaxation of import restrictions on motor vehicles will support revenue mobilization in 2025. While highlighting that the progress in meeting key requirements under the IMF-supported program will be formally assessed in the context of the third review of the EFF, Brewer stated that the timing of the third review will be discussed with the government after the recently announced presidential elections. An International Monetary Fund mission team led by Senior Mission Chief Peter Brewer visited Sri Lanka from the 25th of July to the 2nd of August to discuss recent macroeconomic developments and progress in implementing economic and financial policies under the authority's economic reform program supported by the IMF's Extended Fund Facility arrangement. According to the global lender, the IMF team held meetings with President and Minister of Finance Ranil Wickremesinghe, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe, Treasury Secretary Mahinda Siriwardana and other senior government and CBSL officials. The IMF team also met with parliamentarians, representatives from the private sector, civil society organizations and development partners. Issuing a statement following the conclusion of their visit, Peter Brewer claimed that the economic reform program implemented by the Sri Lankan authorities is yielding commendable outcomes. He went on to say that sustaining the reform momentum and ensuring timely implementation of all program commitments are critical to cementing the hard-won economic progress to date and putting the economy on a firm footing. Brewer noted that 2025 budget needs to be underpinned by appropriate revenue measures and continued spending restraint so as to reach the medium-term primary balance objective of 2.3% of GDP, a key requirement for restoring Sri Lanka's debt sustainability. He added that the planned relaxation of import restrictions on motor vehicles will support revenue mobilization in 2025. The IMF Senior Mission Chief went on to state that tax administration reforms could further improve compliance, including by establishing a proper functioning VAT refund system for exporters by April 2025. He stated that the recent parliamentary approval of two key pieces of legislation, the Public Finance Management Act and the Public Debt Management Act, is a milestone that will improve fiscal discipline and prudent debt management, bolstering transparency and accountability. Brewer highlighted the need for developing a holistic debt management strategy and establishing a well-structured and integrated public debt management office to help lower the government's financing risks. In order to allow the financial sector to contribute to economic growth, the IMF mission chief is of the view that the authorities need to ensure the banking sector is adequately capitalized. While highlighting that the recently formulated National Anti-Corruption Agenda, building on the authority's earlier governance action plan, is a welcome step, Peter Brewer noted that a steadfast implementation of governance reforms outlined in the Governance Diagnostic Report, prioritizing near-term commitments under the EFF program, is critical to addressing corruption risks and promoting a break from past policy missteps. While highlighting that the authorities have made commendable progress in putting debt on a sustainable path forward, the IMF Senior Mission Chief for Sri Lanka noted that the execution of the domestic debt restructuring and finalizing the agreements with the Official Credit Committee and China's Exim Bank are major milestones. Peterborough stated that the IMF staff assessed the joint working framework announced at the conclusion of the second round of restricted discussions with the bondholder committee and have provided their assessment to the authorities and, on their request, the financial advisors of the bondholders. IMF Senior Mission Chief Peterborough stated that the global lender encourages a swift resolution for the remaining steps to achieve debt sustainability and regain investor confidence, and added that they will continue to support Sri Lanka's ongoing debt restructuring efforts.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Now, President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that he aims to develop Jaffna within the next 5 to 10 years by launching a series of development projects, including the Kankasanture Harbour Development and the River for Jaffna project, which is expected to provide a comprehensive solution to the water scarcity issues in the northern region. He made those comments while addressing the inauguration of the Thalayadi seawater desalination plant.
The Thalayadi seawater desalination plant, a part of the Jaffna Kilinochchi water supply project, was vested with the public today under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe. The project, which is managed by the National Water Supply and Drainage Board under the Ministry of Water Supply and Estate Infrastructure Development, with financial support from the Asian Development Bank and the Sri Lankan government, will provide safe drinking water to 300,000 people and improve sanitation facilities for 80,000 people in the Jaffna and Kilinochchi districts.
ආයයිදි ගමේ ඉල්ලීමක් කළා තියෙනවා ග්‍රාම නිලධාරී කොට්ටාසයත් වෙනම දෙන්න කියලා.
A request has been made to establish a separate Grama Niladhari division for Thalayadi, and I will direct the governor to address this request. The establishment of this water purification plant will significantly reduce issues pertaining to drinking water in Jaffna. We also intend to commence work on the Palayaru reservoir to provide water to the Punarine area in the future. I have also decided to launch a River for Jaffna program. Once both this purification plant and this program are fully implemented, the water issue in Jaffna will be completely resolved. This will help restore the Vadamarachi area to its former lush state. Additionally, we are introducing drip irrigation systems to promote modern agriculture in the area. As we invest in water, it is essential to maximize the benefits we derive from it. We are also planning to renovate the port of Kankasanture in collaboration with India. An investment zone will be established at the site of the former cement factory. Additionally, the development of Palali will enhance tourism opportunities. This area has significant potential for producing wind and solar energy, which can generate substantial income. As a result, Jaffna is expected to become a developed region within the next 5 to 10 years. It has been around 20 years since the end of the war, and it is time for us now to unite in our efforts for development.
Horizon Campus 2024 Intake 2. Register now.
Now, as internal turmoil within the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna brews and boils, State Minister of Finance Srihan Semasinghe says that decisions made by his party with regard to the upcoming presidential election will lead to another crisis similar to the one that took place in 2022. Meanwhile, State Minister of Technology Kanaka Herath claims that electing President Ranil Wickremesinghe to office is the wish of the people, highlighting that they want the country's economy to be stabilized.
A meeting was held in Kegol today between State Minister of Technology Kanaka Herath and 18 Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna representatives of the Ramukana Pradeshya Sabha. During the meeting, a unanimous decision was made to pledge allegiance to President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
We left the Sri Lanka Freedom Party to honour the wishes of the people. We did so to strengthen Mahinda Rajapaksa. Similarly, the public demands that we support President Ranil Wickremesinghe until the country is stabilised by him. He began doing so 2 years ago.
Meanwhile, in Anuradhapura, a meeting was held today among State Minister of Finance Srihan Semasinghe, SLPP parliamentarian SM Chandrasena and SLPP local government representatives in the Anuradhapura district. A decision was made during the meeting to extend their support to the incumbent president as well.
Our decision was to support President Ranil Wickremesinghe in the presidential election and contest separately as a party in the upcoming parliamentary election. Based on our over 30 years of experience in politics, we know that it is difficult for a candidate fielded by the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna to claim victory. People have not forgotten what happened. Let's support an independent candidate who can win the election. The president placed his election deposit as an independent candidate.
My friend Namal Rajapaksa recently said that the torching of our houses is justified. Instead of securing power, what the party is expecting at the moment is to join the opposition in the future and take measures that will lead to a crisis similar to that of 2022 within a month and a half's time. Now, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa spoke of making sacrifices as Sri Lanka heads out of its grueling economic crisis today, and particularly emphasized that the head of state must be the first to make such sacrifices. Drawing attention to the domestic debt restructuring efforts in Sri Lanka, the opposition leader went on to claim that during the restructuring, the EPF and the ETF were ripped off, while the wealthiest bondholders were left out.
The sixth phase of the Buddhist Advisory Council of the Samaga Jana Balawegaya, aimed at fostering a disciplined society, was held today in Kurunagala under the patronage of opposition leader Sajith Premadasa.
අපි IMF කණ්ඩායම හමු වෙලා අපි කිව්වා ඔව් රටේ වෙනස්කම් සිද්ධ වෙන්නට ඕන.
We met the IMF representatives who visited Sri Lanka and agreed that reforms need to be implemented and that development must be achieved through such reforms. We also highlighted that everyone must make sacrifices equally. The head of state must be the first one to sacrifice. However, when domestic debt was restructured, the primary bond dealers were left out while the Employee Trust Fund and the Employee Provident Fund were ripped off. We believe that the affluent must sacrifice more compared to the less affluent. We communicated that thought to the IMF very sincerely. Some suggest that the country should be developed in 2048. Others claim that we might have to wait longer, while a few claim that we can develop before 2048. I cannot fathom why the government would agree to start repaying debt by 2028 itself when the IMF proposed that we can start repaying debt by 2032 when the country is on better footing. We will never embrace a policy to impress the global lender when on the other hand we can grasp an opportunity to breathe a sigh of relief. We have clearly stated our commitment to work with the IMF in the future. Some say that is not necessary. That is not smart. We must not let such nonsense drive the country off a precipice once again. Instead, we must strategically and tactically plan our way out of crisis.
අපි දැනගන්නට ඕන ක්‍රමෝපායික උපක්‍රමශීලී ප්‍රතිපත්ති සම්පාදනය තුළ අපි කොහොමද ගොඩ එන්නේ.
Now, leader of the National People's Power, Kumar Disanayake, says the NPP will not allow school children or the country's education system to be used for political purposes. Addressing a gathering in Maligawatha, the NPP leader went on to say that an NPP-led government will provide solutions to all existing salary discrepancies of teachers and added that the current political culture must be transformed for the better.
The National Teachers Convention of the Ceylon Teachers Union was held at the PD Sirisena ground in Maligawatha under the patronage of leader of the National People's Power, Kumar Disanayake.
ජාතික ජනබලවේගයේ රට ගොඩනැගීම සඳහා තියෙන සැලසුම් වල එක අධ්‍යාපනය.
The first priority in the NPP's plan to develop the country is developing education. We believe that education is a solution to all issues, including the collapse of the country's economy, the deterioration of law and order, and widespread social disorder. As the first step, we have established a policy to gradually increase funds allocated for education, bringing it up to 4% of GDP within a span of a few years. The NPP-led government will immediately provide solutions to salary discrepancies. We will not allow school children and education be used for political purposes. We will completely transform the political system. Teachers fear ministers, principals fear the provincial ministers. At the moment, the school culture is such that the staff can't say no if the provincial subject minister decides to visit the school. We must get rid of that culture. We must bring about a new political culture where everyone is able to work and stand together in a single file. To achieve this, we must win on the 21st of September. Teachers are the most powerful group of professionals who can ensure that victory compared to all other groups. Therefore, a massive responsibility rests on your shoulders.
ප්‍රධානම සමූහය තමයි ගුරුවරු. එනිසා මේ ජයග්‍රහණයේ ප්‍රධානම කාර්යයක් අපිට පැවරෙනවා.
Now let's take a look at some other developments in the political arena.
නැවත පැමිණීම් කීපයක් සිද්ධ වෙයි. ඒකට ප්‍රමුඛ හේතුව වෙන්නේ ඒ අය ගමට ගියාම මහින්ද මහත්තයාට ආදරේ ගමේ මිනිස්සු කියනවා සර් අපි මහින්ද මහත්තයාට උදව් කරමු කියන එක. මම හිතනවා ඒක තේරුම් අරගෙන යම් යම් වෙනස්කම් කීපයක් හෙට අනිද්ද වෙයි කියලා.
අත් වශයෙන්ම රනිල් මහත්තයත් එක්ක අපිට එකතු වෙලා යන්න දීච්ච අවස්ථාව එතුමා තමයි නැති කරේ. ඊට පස්සේ අපිට කරන්න දෙයක් නෑ අපි පක්ෂයක් කටියට අපි කෙනෙක් ඉදිරිපත් කරන්න. ඒ කටයුත්ත තමයි අපි දැන් කරගෙන යන්නේ.
අලියයි පොහොට්ටුවයි දෙක එකට තියලා පරද්දන්න පුළුවන් මැතිවරණයක් බවට මේක පරිවර්තනය වෙනවා. සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්මයා අද අර පොහොට්ටුවේ ජරා ජීර්ණ චරිත ටිකයි ඒ ඔක්කොම අද සජිත් මහත්තයාත් ගොඩකට එකතු කරනවා 8 වෙනිදාත් තවත් එකතු කරනවා.
නමුන්නාන්සලා අහනවා ඇති අයි මේ පොහොට්ටුවේ උන් ගන්න කියලා ගන්න එපයි දිනන්නේ නේද? ඒ අනිත් අපි විශාල පිරිසක් එක සන්දානගත මේ මැතිවරණේ ජනතාව බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ මේ තැනින් රට ගොඩ ගන්න පුළුවන් කාණ්ඩායම කවුද? රට ගොඩ ගන්න පුළුවන් නායකයා කවුද? සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාසයි සමගී ජන බලවේගයයි කියලා ජනතාව දැන් තීන්දුව කළාමාරයි.
මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයා හදාපු පොදු ජන එක්සත් පෙරමුණේ දැන් මන්ත්‍රීවරු 100කට ආසන්න ප්‍රමාණයක් රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමාට සහයෝගය දෙනවා. හැබැයි එතනදී මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහත්තයාගේ පුතා නාමල් රාජපක්ෂයි බැසිල් රාජපක්ෂයි දැන් ධම්මික පෙරරයි එකතු වෙලා සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයත් එක්ක දැන් මාස ගණනක ඉඳලා සාකච්ඡා කරනවා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ ආපහු වට්ටන්නේ කොහොමද කියලා. මං අහනවා සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාසගෙන් මෙහෙම සාකච්ඡාවක් කරුවේ නැහැ කියලා රට ඉස්සරහට ඇවිල්ලා කියන්න. සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයා වේදිකාවල බෙරිහන් දුන්නේ රනිල් රාජපක්ෂ කියලා. එහෙනම් අදින් පස්සේ සජිත් රාජපක්ෂ එකතු වෙලයි කියලා දැන් මුළු රටම දන්නවා.
එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ නායකත්වයේ අතෑරලා සමගි ජන බලවේග හදාගෙන ආවෙත් මේ රාජපක්ෂලා සහ රාජපක්ෂලාගේ ත්‍රාඩ කල්ලිය එක්ක ඩීල් දාන්න බැරි හින්දා අපි පැහැදිලිව කියන්න ඕන රාජපක්ෂලාගේ කල්ලිය සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මැතිතුමාට උපන්දිනයට සුබ පතන්න කතා කරාමවත් එතුමා දුරකථනය ආන්සර් කරන්නේ නැහැ. මම ළඟ ඉඳන් දැක්කා.
දැන් වියත් මගේ හිටපු නාලක කොට ඒවාද සජිත් ළඟ. ඒකින්ද තව ලියන්න පුළුවන් ඕන තරම් වැඩපිළිවෙලවල්. හැබැයි කරලා පෙන්නපු නායකයෙක් කොයි කවුරුවත් ළඟ නැහැ. ඒක නිසා එක එක අය ඇඳුම් මහගෙන හිටියට ඇඳගන්න හම්බ වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
Now in other news, the Supreme Court has issued an interim order preventing the implementation of the cabinet decision to grant approval for the online visa electronic travel authorization to 2 private entities. The court has also issued another interim injunction preventing the implementation of the agreements reached with the relevant foreign companies. This order was issued while granting leave to proceed with the hearing of several petitions filed by a group of MPs, including M.A. Sumantiran, Partli Champika and Rauf Hakim pertaining to the matter. Chief incumbent of the Hunupitiya Gangarama temple in Colombo, Venerable Galbudanyani Sirathera, popularly known as Podihamuduru, passed away at 81 years of age today. The final rites of the late Thera will be held under state patronage on Monday at the grounds opposite the temple.
Born on the 14th of December 1943 in the village of Galbuda, located in the southern province of Sri Lanka, Venerable Galbudanyani Sirathera was ordained as a Buddhist monk at the age of 8 in 1954 at the Hunupitiya Gangarama temple. At the age of 16 years, Venerable Jnani Sirathera was handed over the responsibility of the temple due to the ailing conditions of Venerable Deundara Vachi Sirathera, the then chief incumbent of the Gangarama temple. Since then, Venerable Jnani Sirathera, who became infamous among the masses as Podihamuduru, rendered a great service for the development of the Buddha Sasana and the Gangarama temple, which was founded by Venerable Hikadwe Sri Sumangala Thera, a pioneer of the Sri Lankan Buddhist revivalist movement in the 19th century. Apart from his services for the upliftment of Buddha Sasana, Venerable Galbudanyani Sirathera initiated several community service projects, primarily in the fields of vocational education, homeless shelters for children and elderly people, sanitation and cleanliness. The Sri Jinaratana Training Institute, which was expanded by Venerable Jnani Sirathera, has been a beacon of hope for school dropouts in Sri Lanka for over 4 decades, as it offers a diverse range of over 50 technical courses covering fields such as electronics, motor mechanics, tinkering and painting, welding, electrical wiring, blacksmithing, English language teaching, secretarial courses and IT education. Even though political leaders invoke blessings from the Venerable Thera, he is also infamous for expressing his displeasure fearlessly whenever an act of injustice manifests itself. Venerable Galbudanyani Sirathera, who was receiving treatment for a prolonged illness, passed away this morning while receiving treatment at a private hospital in Colombo. He was 81 years old at the time of his demise. The remains of the late chief incumbent of the Gangarama temple were brought to a private funeral parlour in Colombo this afternoon. According to the funeral committee, the final rites of the late Venerable Galbudanyani Sirathera will be held under state patronage on Monday at the ground opposite to the temple.
And now some local news in brief.
A vehicle travelling at a high speed on the Poruwadanda Boriligoda road veered off the road and ran over two pedestrians. One pedestrian succumbed to his injuries while the other sustained severe injuries and is currently receiving treatment in hospital. The unfortunate incident took place last night. Meanwhile, a three-wheeler travelling on the Bandaragama main road collided with a motorcycle after the three-wheeler driver lost control of his vehicle last night. 3 persons sustained injuries during the accident and were taken to the Horana District General Hospital for treatment. In other local news, a car travelling from Piliyandala to Moratuwa collided head-on with a three-wheeler travelling from the opposite direction. According to reports, the driver of the car had fallen asleep behind the wheel. The accident left 3 people injured who were promptly admitted for necessary treatment. The unfortunate accident was recorded on camera.
Star dishwasher Dali Tel Indul Pahasuwen Sede. Star dishwasher Magic Tub එක.
Welcome back. Now in your business news, global low-cost domestic and international Indian airline Indigo announced Sri Lanka's Jaffna as the newest addition to its international route network. Indigo is scheduled to start non-stop daily flights between Chennai and Jaffna starting from the 1st of September 2024. Jaffna will be the second destination in Sri Lanka after Colombo for Indigo, making it the 34th international and 122nd overall destination in its extensive 6C network. This strategic initiative is set to bolster the strong cultural and trade ties between the two nations that have been marked by cooperation in the fields of commerce, infrastructure development and air connectivity. Tickets for the flights were opened from yesterday. The demand for travel between Chennai and Jaffna is evident, with over 21,000 passengers flying the route within the span of mere 9 months last year. Indigo's direct flights provide a timely boost to this resurgence, offering seamless connectivity and tapping into key markets for Sri Lanka's tourism revival. Now in other business news, the ASPI edged up as a result of price gains in counters such as John Keel's Holdings and SMB Leasing, Non-Voting and Nations Trust Bank, with turnover crossing 776 million rupees. The benchmark all-share index settled at 0.02% higher at 11,442.55 points, while the S&P Sri Lanka 20 edged up 0.26% to close at 3,290.15 points. During the week, the ASPI and the S&P Sri Lanka 20 lost 1.6% and 2.8% respectively, while recording an average weekly turnover of 1.29 billion rupees. Trading volume on the ASPI rose to 29.3 million shares from 25 million in the previous session. Mixed interest was observed in Haley's Fabric, Macwood's Energy and Access Engineering, whilst retail interest was noted in Brown's Investments, Commercial Bank Rights and SoftLogic Holdings. Capital goods sector was a top contributor to market turnover. Foreign investors closed as net buyers, purchasing shares worth 82.6 million rupees, while domestic investors were net sellers, offloading shares worth 760.7 million rupees. And now let's take a look at the rupee exchange rates during the day. That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.